Welcome, everybody, to the Coach Paul Tortorella Show. I'm Jack Benedict, and we're going to talk IUP Crimson Hog football, coming away with a 65-16 win over Cheyney University on Saturday. Coach, welcome aboard here as we go again, and every game is a little bit different. And even in this one, I know you wanted to get started in a hurry and get out quickly, and all of a sudden, here's Cheyney with a 3-0 lead. So you had to adapt a little bit, slow start, but a very strong game for you.
Well, yeah, we started out slow. We got a penalty on the first kickoff return. We had the first kickoff return out to over the past our 40. We got a penalty on it, obviously, and to put it back on our 10. We got stopped, didn't have a great punt, so they got pretty good field position. We did a decent job in the red zone, making them kick a field goal. And then I think really from that point on, after the second or third series, I think the next series on offense, we drove the ball and got stopped on fourth down. They knocked the pass down. The guy was wide open for us. But after that, we kind of made a lot of big plays on offense and defense, really. It was just a number of big plays over the course of the day. It wasn't as much, controlling the ball and running the ball. And, Cheyney actually ran 80 plays. So most of our positive things happened quick, offensively and defensively.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it was a day of big plays. You had the block punt. You had a lot of things that happened in this game. The defense, the special teams were really super, weren't they?
Yes, we accounted for 21 points. The two touchdowns on our punt defense and the interception near the end of the half by Tillman. We have been really good at scoring a lot, in both defense and special teams, which is just kind of an added ingredient to what you do on defense. Obviously, you need to stop them, but it helps when you score, when your offense is on the sideline.
I would think as an opposition watching and scouting IUP, there's all this talk about this high, potent offense, but they've got other things to deal with you guys.
Yes, we've first half we made a couple mistakes that cost us a little bit, but the last touchdown that they scored right before it, they made a great throw and catch. I mean, we played the defense that was called, the coverage was good. They just executed, and they were much better offensively than they have been in the past in regards to their execution. More of their breakdowns actually came in their kicking game than anything else. Don
McNeil gave you a great game in a lot of different ways, and his block punt early in the game that kind of stretched the lead, I'm sure that had to be a big lift to you.
Well, whenever you score early in the game on special teams like a block punt, that really kind of gives you a lot of momentum, sets the tempo for how the game's going to be played. Mostly, their statistics are out there. If you block a punt and score a touchdown, I think it's like 95% of the time you're going to win. So, that was good. We also scored again on our punt defensive team. And then when we scored on defense at the end of the half, it kind of put the game away.
Yeah. Talk about maybe some of your guys who are on the special teams. I looked at the stats at the end. I see that Zach Kelly had 5 tackles for you. These are guys that go unnoticed except for the coaches.
Kelly played really well on the special teams. He's become a force on really kind of all of our special teams. And I'll be honest, he's a good football player. He's just behind a lot of good receivers. And so his role, and he knows that, is to help us on special teams. And he was all over the field Saturday on both punt coverage, kick coverage. He did a great job blocking on on kick and punt return, because we had a couple punt returns by Petropola that we blocked really well. And then our kickoff return, if we didn't get penalties, we were running the ball back to the 40 every time.
Well, we've talked before about Mike Petropola, and he's just all over the field, and it was a hot day. So fortunately, you got the big lead where you were able to spell a lot of people during the course of the day.
Right, and we had 4 defensive backs out with injuries that didn't play. So that left us real thin in the secondary. Even when we got the bigger lead, we still had to kind of move some guys around, and we didn't have the luxury of taking out all the starters, especially at safety, because we had 3 safeties that didn't play. So it was a little bit, I would say in the second half, we were just trying to patch some things up because we wanted to get our starters out of there. But because of the guys that were injured and not playing, it was hard to get them all out at the same time.
You have good rotation on that defensive line. Dondre Tillman was just fantastic. I mean, his numbers were across the board. His tackles for loss, sacks, and then of course he topped it off with with an interception and a touchdown, which is a defensive player's delight. He had a great game.
Well, yeah, he's a big play guy. He may make a mistake, and everybody makes mistakes, but when he's making plays, they're big plays: sacks, tackles for losses, knockdown passes. He had a penalty on the quarterback that I find it hard to believe that was a penalty, but they called it. I mean, he really hit the quarterback really hard, but I really didn't see anything there that called for a penalty.
Looked like a legal hit.
I don't know where it would be considered that. I realize the quarterback's helmet fell off, but that really isn't the rule. But neither here nor there. He was very active, and we have eight guys for 4 positions. If they all stay healthy, we've got a great situation in our defensive line.
I'll stay on the defensive side with you. We had talked different times about linebackers. You didn't have the experience coming into this year, although Lloyd and Amendola. But Amendola's really playing well for you. He's getting a lot of tackles, which means he's roaming everywhere, isn't he?
Yes, he's playing pretty well. There's times where in space he's got to be a little bit better, but he's tough. He plays hard. He's very physical. So he's given us what we need. Damon's given us what we need. Obviously, everybody's got to get better. Brandon Myers is playing a decent amount now also at linebacker. So we got 3 young linebackers in there playing and kind of learning as we go along.
Let me go to the offensive side. We're talking about young players. So Dwayne Brown gets hurt early. So you got another true freshman. Justice Evans did the job for you. He ends up with 116 yards on 13 carries, averages 9 yards a carry, gives you a really exciting touchdown. This kid was in the Big 33, wasn't he?
Yes, and he really played wide receiver. As a young player in high school, he was a running back. When he went to Central Catholic his junior year, they moved him to wide receiver. So he's been a wide receiver the last 2 years at Central Catholic. When we had the injuries over the summer at running back, we decided to move him, obviously, along with Dwayne at running back. And, we have 2 true freshmen there behind Samir and Malik. And they've not disappointed us at all. He had a great game Saturday.
We haven't even brought up the quarterback. You, by design, you wanted to play Lenny as least possible, played a half. Just stats, normal day, 10 for 14, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So that's pretty much you got out of him what you wanted, right? And keep him safe for the game because, quarterback is the name of the game.
There's no doubt about that, Jack. It's like we say, it's a marathon, not a sprint in this season. It's a long season, and to keep him fresh, he was very efficient. Played the first half, probably missed 1 throw early in the game that we could have made a first down on. Threw it a little bit low. It looked like Hughes made the catch, but he didn't. And then he had a pass knocked down by a defensive lineman on 4th down early in the game. But other than that, he was on, and he didn't really have to run the ball at all.
Yeah. Give us an update on injuries. We had some guys banged up, and about the defensive guys who were out in the last game. Will they be back for Edinboro?
I think we probably should be able to get all of the defensive backs that didn't play against Cheyney back for Edinboro. Offensively, the 2 wideouts are still up in the air, and neither one obviously has even played yet this year. A couple guys that were banged up in the game will be questionable on offense. So, it looks like we're going to help ourselves defensively this week, but we still got some questionable guys on offense now.
Well, it's still early in the week, too.
Sure.
You don't know what's going to happen the next couple of days. Edinboro, 2-1. And, of course, they've had 2 wins the first couple of games. But then last week at Westchester, they really took it on the chin, gave up a lot of points. But we know they can score, don't we?
Yes, they're really strong offensively. You look at their numbers last year, they're off the chart. The quarterback has a lot of statistics over his career. They were a really good team last year at 9-2, and they won most of their games by outscoring people. Offense was their niche. I don't think they take a back seat to anybody offensively, and that's not saying anything against their defense,
Sure.
but they score points, and they score a lot of them against a lot of people too. It's just not against the teams that are lower in the division. So they are a definite threat offensively. Anytime you've got a quarterback that's been a 3-year starter, they've got a great receiver in Clark, dynamic slot guy in Gregory, good running back with Fletcher, 3 offensive linemen back. So, offensively, they're as good as anybody in our league.
And they have a kid on defense that has 5 interceptions already.
Yes, early in the season, I think he had 3 in one game. Mm-hmm. And they, their first 2 games, they only gave up 6 points. Mm-hmm. And now last week, Westchester's really good on offense too. Westchester scored 42 against Slippery Rock and lost. So they struggled a little bit last week. First time on the road for them, I'm sure, wasn't easy with some young players. So they struggled a little bit on defense, but, Westchester's pretty good on offense too.
Yeah. They have a situation coaching-wise, and I'll wrap it up here in a few moments, but it's similar to yours. Guys have been in the system for a long time. The coach leaves, he gets. Do you notice similarity or differences? I would think there's probably not much change when you're in the system as long as he's been there.
Well, they still have the same offensive coordinator, and he does a great job with their offense. When they made the coaching change and they went from a 0-11 team to a 9-2 team, which is like pretty much unbelievable.
It is.
A big part of it, in my mind, obviously was a new head coach, but the offensive coordinator that they brought in has done a terrific job with their offense. Just as good as anybody we play.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'll be a challenge, and games 4 in a row here. We don't know what the road is like yet, but it's nice to play at home, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. We've had great crowds. We've had great weather. Mm-hmm. And the community, the fans have come out, students. It's been great, really. It's kind of nice your first 4 games are at home, but, down the road, we're going to be on the road a lot. So you have to take advantage, of your home games. We feel like we should win at home. There's no doubt in our mind that we should win at home. And we've gotten a lot of help from the fans, actually. We've had 3 great crowds. Cheyney, obviously, you don't think you're going to draw that well. And I thought it was a really good crowd. And then the first game, obviously, was off the charts. We had a great crowd against East Stroudsburg. I know this week there's an alumni day, so we're going to have a lot of football alumni back. It looks like the long-range forecast, the weather's going to be good again. Yeah. So we expect another big crowd. And believe me, our players, they're very well aware of, how many people are there and the crowd noise and the following that we have. People don't realize that, but they're really excited about that.
Yeah, well, that's good. And Edinboro always, that's always a good opponent. It's been a long-time rival. So let's have some fun. Good luck on Saturday.
Appreciate it, Jack.
Okay.
Thanks.
Coach Tortorella with us. It's a noon kickoff, remember, with Edinboro this coming week. And we'll be back next week, and we'll talk more IUP Crimson Hawk football with Coach Paul Tortorella. This is Jack Benedict. Have a nice evening.